Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a sponsored review of a 10S single cut guitar. They sent this to me for free in exchange for a review and demo video, but to be honest, I was pretty interested in checking this particular model out anyways, because I've always liked the Silverburst finish, but the problem is Silverburst is expensive. Because, you know, you got the Adam Jones signature coming out, that'll probably be the high 4 to 5 figures. And the vintage ones have just been getting crazy on the used market lately. And I think other than that, I mean, you could get an Epiphone one, but those usually don't have the teardrop shape. So like the cheapest you could get would be like one of the modern day studios at about like 12 to 1500 bucks or so. And those ones wouldn't even be aged. So what 10S has done here is they have made their own version of kind of like a Adam Jones inspired single cut. So I'm kind of interested in checking this thing out. Oh man, it's not looking so good. First off the bat, we got a broken E string, truss rod cover. That's interesting that they chose not to put a second screw right there. But you might have heard of this company before. They've partnered with a few other YouTubers. I think the one that I vividly remember is Fluff. He had some sort of a signature guitar, and they offered to do something like that for me too, but I figured, why don't we just take one of these production ones? It's a little bit easier. I don't have to design anything. But cool, look at this. So they were telling me that they were trying to get these things out before those Adam Jones signature ones came, so they didn't look like they were being copycats. So first thing right off the bat that I was not expecting is all that glitter sparkle within the paint. A vintage Silverburst does not actually have that much, so that is something that will be a little bit different. And you can tell that they've actually done a legitimate aging job. That's kind of interesting how they did that, because I believe these are $3.99 on their Reverb shop. I'll put a link in the description if you are interested in checking one of these things out. And the guy was telling me they're not really well known for like having the best finish jobs in the world, so don't be too picky about that, but we'll definitely throw this thing on the workbench and take an up close look. I mean, I'm seeing some orange peeling effect, but honestly, for the price, if you're looking for something that has the burst job on the back and the neck, as well as the headstock, it doesn't look like they did the sides of the headstock though. They left that part out, but they did do the sides of the body, so that's impressive. And you just get that little relic job. So for 400 bucks, I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, there's some things that they could do better on future runs, like get rid of that sparkle top. But let's go ahead and throw this thing on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside the 10S single cut, what kind of pickups are in here? This is just kind of your standard overseas style pickup. They're nothing fancy. They advertise them as Alnico 2 pickups. And I get readings of about 4 in the middle. The bridge pickup is 8.52, so that's a little bit hotter than what a Tim Shaw would be, or a T-top. And then the neck is about where it would normally be, 7.54. So they've wound this bridge pickup just to be a little bit hotter, which is kind of a cool thing. But something I found fascinating is they actually went with a long neck tenon on these. That's probably just how they're making most of their guitars, but if you love long neck tenons, you know, maybe check one of these things out. But if we're being picky here, technically a 70s or 80s Les Paul Custom in Silverburst would not have a long neck tenon. But going off that Adam Jones vibe, they do not have a cover on the bridge pickup, and they've aged that neck pickup cover. And I did a little bit of sanding so we could see it does actually have a 2-piece maple top, and then the spec sheet calls it a solid mahogany body, but I have no way to verify or deny that. The routes are of decent quality. I mean, there's not a bunch of splintering, but there still is some. Room for improvement, sure, but at this price point, they can't really spend too much time on insignificant things. I did make a few modifications to this guitar. Most of the vintage Silverbursts have a cream switch tip. I just happened to have one that would fit on here, so I threw that on there. I will just kind of run the light over the finish here. I mean, they didn't want me to heavily dwell on their finish. They already told me that they were having some real issues with the Silverburst finish, but, you know, it is what it is, and I think that is why they choose to age these guitars, because it kind of helps mask the orange peeliness of the finish. So if you're a real stickler of this kind of stuff, maybe pass on this particular finish. But you can see 2 volumes and 2 tones here, with some relicing on this side, and you'll also notice no pickguard on here. And even though this cutaway looks really strange in photos, in person it's not quite as jarring as I thought it would be. But now let's move on to this. There was a little bit of drama that happened with this guitar. Remember how that top E string broke and our truss rod cover was all ajar? This must have got damaged in shipping, because take a look at this bridge. You see how collapsed that is? That's supposed to be bending the other way, so convex instead of concave. Even our bridge posts got severely bent. So while this was in transit, it likely got banged really hard right here. And that caused the bridge to collapse, the E string to break. And I don't necessarily think it's because they're using cheap quality materials. I mean, this feels okay. It's got a decent weight to it. I think it's just unfortunate shipping damage for these guys. But they went ahead and sent me some money so I could replace the bridge. And I just happened to have a Gibson ABR1 bridge, which works perfectly with these metric studs in here. They were about 4 millimeters in diameter, so those studs just fit directly in there. So hey, now our 10S guitar has a genuine Gibson ABR1 bridge on it, which once again is not accurate for a Les Paul Custom Silverburst, but hey, at least we have a bridge and it works, right? As far as the tailpiece goes, this is still the original one. There's really no markings on here. It is full weight. So moving on from the mahogany body, we move on to the neck. Now this is supposed to be a 3-piece maple neck. Now I can't personally verify the whole 3-piece thing, but I can tell you it is a maple neck just looking in here. And you do indeed have some type of ebony fretboard on here with 22 medium jumbo frets, and they're calling this real mother of pearl inlays. Now they kind of feel slightly plasticky to me, but yet at the same time they have the same figuring as real genuine mother of pearl, so whatever they're using here, it looks fantastic and I want to commend them on that. It certainly looks the part. They've nailed that 24 3/4 inch scale length, and we've got a 1.67 inch nut width, which increases to 2.05 by the 12th, so they've got that pretty well nailed down, right? But this neck profile is completely wrong for a 70s, 80s Les Paul Custom, but I think at the same time, I think a lot of people will like this. It's a humongous rounded baseball bat, so 0.92 at the first, and at the 12th, 1.02. I mean, it feels much larger than that. So if you've always hated the vintage Silverburst because they usually have that 60 slim neck, you'll feel right at home with this one, because that's a big, beefy neck. Another modification I made to this is, remember how I said I was annoyed that there was only one screw holding this down? I went ahead and drilled a second one because that was causing that to vibrate when I was playing the guitar, so that was easy enough to do. And you'll see that the binding has also turned green. I think if you really wanted to get picky, the binding does not turn green, it just kind of turns more of like a dark ambered color, whereas it's mainly just over top of the silver where it becomes that green finish. So this kind of reminds me of like the Shrek guitar, get out of my swamp, because it's like a true Green Widow type vibe going on here. I do like the shape of the headstock, but I think they might be cutting it close on trademark. Now the 10S logo, it's neither, super attractive or offensive at the same time, it's just kind of there. But you can definitely see some unevenness on the finish, or maybe it's even uneven just on the wood underneath. So once again, not the highest quality finish work here. Moving on to the back, what kind of electronics do we have? I was really surprised to see full-sized 500K pots. Now, if you want to upgrade them to CTS, I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to do, but I'm sure these will be doing just fine. They're alpha branded. But you will notice that this control cavity is a little bit smaller than on a traditional Les Paul, and they've got the metal output jack with a washer, and kind of a larger style strap button down here, and one up here, and inside this little cavity, you can see your toggle switch. So surprisingly decent electronics in this thing. Well, maybe except for the pickups. But those wouldn't be too hard to upgrade. Now if we want to get nitpicky, technically this should have like a metal shielding tin and an encapsulating that if they were going for the 70s, 80s thing, but that's really unimportant. Super large teardrop shape back here though encompasses pretty much the whole guitar. It's a little bit much. It should kind of come to a point right there if you're going for that traditional one. But every burst job is different, so maybe they were just basing this off of a different one. But on the neck, back here, I could finally see where you can find that it's 3 pieces. You see that seam line right there? And then it looks like there might be another one right there. So it's not quite the same as where Gibson joins it. They do theirs about like right here and here. But still a 3-piece maple neck. So this is going after the 78 through 82 specs, because after that the Silverburst switched back to the mahogany neck. But you do have the giant volute back here. That's a nice touch that I like. And hey, real Grover tuners on this guitar at this price point. I was happy to see those, but no serialization on these. All said and done, with a Gibson ABR1 bridge on it, it weighs 9 pounds, 7.9 ounces, so just a hair lighter than what an original one would be, unless you get a really lightweight one. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in and hear how it sounds. So all in all here, what are my final thoughts on this 10S single cut Silverburst guitar? I think they've done the best job to their abilities at producing a guitar at this price point. Basically, just to summarize what they could work on is get rid of the sparkle within the finish, because that's not how original Silverbursts are done. And I'm guessing it's the sparkle that's causing all of this orange peeling. And that's the same thing that's causing them from making this finish look super nice. So just switch to a metallic but non-sparkly paint. I think it'd be cool if they even just raise the price and have, you know, like Seymour Duncan pickups in here. The fretwork on this was actually really good, and this is out of the box. I did not have to polish the frets or condition this fretboard. It was all looking good here. Maybe consider a second screw right there, but other than that, I mean, I actually really enjoyed this guitar for the price point. But you also have to consider things. You could get a brand new Epiphone Les Paul Custom for about the same price. So which one is better? I think the Epiphone might have better quality finish-wise, might have slightly nicer pickups, but ultimately a lot more work went into this finish because you've got the burst on the front, you've got it on the sides, you got it on the back, and you cannot get an aged Silverburst Epiphone. So it really just kind of depends on what you're going for here. So it's definitely a good guitar for somebody who really wants a Silverburst but cannot necessarily afford one of the vintage ones. Also keep neck shapes in mind. line. This is such a big fat neck. You really can't find that on very many Epiphones. Not quite this chunky. So there's pros and cons to the 10S guitar. I will just leave it up to you guys to decide, because these guys do create some very interesting finishes for medium price points. And they do single cuts, they do S style, they do T style. I mean, just check out their Reverb shop, because that is how you are going to be entered in to win one of their guitars. I want you to visit their Reverb shop using my link in the description, and then come back to the video and tell me which one was your favorite. From those comments, we will choose one winner. So thank you 10S for sending me this guitar. It was a lot of fun to check out, and if you are interested in getting one of these for yourself, I will leave a channel supporting link in the description. Thank you Troglodytes for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.